Well then, so welcome again to Biomechanics. I'm Dr. Lane. I'm the person who's going to be teaching this. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, emails at michael.lane@eku.edu is probably one of the easiest ways to get a hold of me. Otherwise, like I said, I'm on campus most days of the week, though we are currently living through a pandemic, so that makes the meeting and talking in person a little bit more difficult. So what we're looking at here, guys, is the qualitative and quantitative study of human movement. So we're really talking about a whole lot of different parts of science kind of coming together to obviously helping us understand what all is going on in movement. Now, the texts that I have up here, guys, are older editions because it turns out all they do is make a few little updates and then charge you guys a lot more money. So you can grab even an earlier edition or you can grab a more recent edition. It's not going to make a big difference. The key is the basic walkthroughs, the formulas, and all of those are still going to be there. So make sure that you guys are getting the texts. Now, I'm not going to insult your intelligence. Here are the student learning outcomes. We are going to be hitting all of them. If you have questions, obviously, when we're going throughout any of this, please throw it up in the chat, unmute yourself, and go ahead and ask it. I also have the polling part open on the participants. So go ahead, guys, just go ahead and click yes if you understand how to hit the polling, so I can kind of see how everybody's doing over there. Okay. So we got a little to be desired when it comes to learning how to hit the polling buttons. So that's okay. That's okay. Emily, if you don't mind, you can either unmute yourself or just type it in the chat the basic way that you go about it, since your guys' controls are different than mine.
I just went to the bottom where it says participants and clicked on it, and at the bottom there's a raise hand, yes, no, go slower, go faster, and there's more options.
Perfect. So thank you, Emily. So I know a couple of you guys are obviously, staring at the screen, paying attention. I'm sure there's one or two kids that just turned on the lecture and then currently, making breakfast, using the bathroom. Maybe they went back to sleep. It's still kind of early. It's been a while since we've obviously all been moving. It's okay, guys. I will not judge. Instead, my goal, once again, is to make sure that you guys understand what's going on. So let's really get to the brass tacks of what you really care about, which is how do you pass the class? The key is you do well. We're going to have 3 different exams. They are each going to be cumulative. Now, the thing that's different with how my classes are compared to the ones you've taken before is you're going to take each of those exams twice. You're going to take it once as a group, once as an individual, then you're going to take it as a group. Now that group is going to be who you're working with on your movement project, which is a kind of a big project that we're doing throughout the entire semester. Each week, you guys are going to take a quiz, first as an individual, then as a group, that you guys are going to be, or we're going to cover what we effectively covered that week. We're going to have that major group project that you're going to be breaking down in very high level of effectively a movement of your choice. Now, there's going to be a number of different homework assignments. Those are all up on Blackboard. You're going to be taking a multiple choice quiz before every single lecture, effectively over what's going to be covered that time. And it's going to always record the highest grade on the homework quizzes. Now, the lab reports and the math, you only get to turn it in once. Math quizzes are due this week. It's making sure that you understand how to do algebra and a little bit of trigonometry, because they're both very important for this class. And then there's the potential for extra credit. So there's the grading scale. I do not round. If you send me an email, I'm, Dr. Lane, or I like when they say Mr. Lane. As soon as you do that, I've kind of checked out because I'm a little pretentious. And, I got a 79.999. Is there any way I can have a B? Into which, the usual answer of build a time machine, go back in time, get a couple more points, get yourself a B. So please don't do that. Please don't do that. Student progress, you guys can look all that up. and kind of see how things are going on Blackboard. If you have questions, comments, concerns, let me know. Do keep in mind, if you don't do an assignment, it doesn't automatically give you a 0. I have to manually give you a 0 so you can have an inflated concept of what your grade is because you haven't turned in a lot of the work. So check on occasion, because I do try to make sure that I fill those in. You do need to show up to the class, and that also means showing up to these wonderful online lectures. I can see via the name who all is in here right now. There's no names that are too crazy. I have had a couple people jump in and out, and that's okay, because Lord knows their internet connection could be a problem. If it's an issue, guys, shoot me an email and be like, I kept getting kicked out of Zoom, where I'm at, internet's not good. But do plan on, guys, trying to be in a better location in the future, so you're going to be able to have that access. Cell phone policy. Yeah, I guess I can't enforce it, so who cares? Important dates, didn't update those. We started today, and last day of class is going to be on May, at least May 3rd or 4th. If you have any accommodations that you need, please, please, please get me that documentation immediately. They will email me so I know, and we're going to be able to make sure that you guys are going to be in the best possible situation to do well in this class. Tardiness, who cares? Doesn't matter. We can't really enforce that right now. Please don't cheat. Please don't cheat. Please don't cheat. Please don't cheat. Yes, the non-discrimination and harassment Title IX prevention statement. Yeah, don't be a jerk. If you see somebody being a jerk, report it, and hopefully something will be done about it. And now let's talk about the joys of the course outline. So kind of how we're doing everything together. This is a best laid plan, and seeing as how, once again, we are currently all living through a pandemic, which I'm sure has challenged all of us in our own unique ways. We're going to try to keep to this to the best of our ability. However, if we need to go slower, that's okay. If you guys have a lot of questions, we're having good conversations, I am more than happy for us to push things back. Whereas obviously, if we're just bulldozing through and making great progress, then we're just going to go ahead and get through our information faster rather than slower. And from there, you can also see, like, we have the math test, you've got homework due, you've got thinking and unit quizzes. You can see all these different assignments you're going to have. You can see when the labs are due, and you're going to see videos of how to perform them on YouTube, which should be already linked through if you look at some of those older announcements. And all of this stuff, you can just look up my YouTube site. I'm sure you can search my name or otherwise. If you have issues finding, excuse me, please let me know. So you are going to have to read outside of class. You will have to participate. Now, you guys know when we're going to have these exams. Guys, they're online, they're open. They're going to have specific time periods you have to take them within. And if you don't do it, you're not going to get the class. We're going to have this massive team project. So this is where you and a group of people are going to break down a movement, and you're going to break it into what are going to be the 4 basic phases. So we're talking about essentially the set, the wind up, the force producing, and the follow through. So how do the joints change angles as you go through each of those, what's occurring in each, and what are the main factors we're looking for. So you're going to also compare an amateur to a high level individual, and looking at obviously the differences in performance between the two, and effectively what would be the reasons for those differences in performance. Now you're going to put together a PowerPoint presentation. Good news is we're all going to have you guys just record your slides ahead of time, so you don't have to worry about getting nervous and presenting in front of other people. Instead, all you have to do is just record the slide with you narrating your information. And there you go. Now here's the big thing with the team project here, with the movement project. What's really nice is you only have to break down your joint. You don't have to break down every joint. So you could be in a group of 5 people. You're in charge of the shoulder. Someone's got the elbow. Someone's got the wrist. Someone's got the hip. Someone's got the knee. Your paper over this is simply going to be over your joint. That's it. You don't have to break down everybody else's joints. And you want someone in your group to be a slacker and not to do the work, because you look that much better because they did nothing. So during the PowerPoint presentation, you'll have your great slide broken down, what's really changed, what's the difference between the amateur and the expert, what muscles are being used, etc. And then you'll have pretty much a blank slide. You naturally are going to look that much better. It's like before the sickness came, when you guys could go out, standing next to your less attractive friend, because it makes you look that much more attractive by comparison. Usually that gets 1 or 2 laughs, but we don't live in that world anymore. Okay, so you are going to have to go ahead and spend some time with this information, guys. It's not easy. I'm not going to lie to you. Okay. You are going to have those labs. They were designed to be done outside of class time. Anyways, we will have equipment around, so you will be able to do some of these on your own. Some you're going to be able to just kind of rig up. But if you have questions, let me know. And there you go. There's a link to the YouTube channel. And yeah, I have a blog that I just kind of wax and wane the poetic. Here is options we have for extra credit, which is you're going to break down the physics of movies, and it gets wild. In fact, we're going to do that for an extra credit opportunity. You cannot use the same ones that we work through in class, but you can, watch the movie and break down the physics. Once again, it gets pretty entertaining whenever you try to figure out what would have been the forces used in your typical Marvel movie or otherwise. Now, do we have any questions about the syllabus so far before we move on to some of the PowerPoints?
I have one question.
Mhm.
So the chapter quizzes for the group ones, are we
Mhm.
supposed to take those before lecture, like with a group, or are we doing that when we start lecture?
Great question, Emily. The idea with pretty much all the quizzes is you guys are taking them outside of class. So you're going to take your quiz as an individual and then take it as a group. They're all meant to be open for wider swaths of time, so you kind of can take them effectively at your leisure. Whenever you guys do take the quizzes in Blackboard, it shows me when you started, when you submitted. So if one member of your group took their individual quiz after their group quiz, they're going to receive a 0 on both of those quizzes. So just make sure you're always just respecting the fact that we're given a lot of latitude right now, so let's not abuse it. So good question. All right. So to kind of help give you guys a little bit more information on how to do well is, once again, I want you guys to do well in biomechanics. Think of it this way. If I really didn't like you, and obviously this is the speaking in broad strokes of, or like certain students, I didn't like them. I'm the only one that teaches biomechanics. So I'd have to see them again the next semester and again the next semester. I don't want to do that to anybody. If I didn't like somebody, why would you want to keep hanging out with them? If anything, the kids that get A's in this class that I genuinely enjoyed having in the class, I want them to do it again. But why? They already got an A. So no matter what, I want you to do well, because I want you to go on to do the things you want to do with your life. But this is not an easy class. You have to stay on top of your homeworks. You have to stay on top of your quizzes. You have to stay on top of all the different parts here. You need to make sure that you're working on it. Now, this is going to be difficult. A lot of you guys haven't had physics, or it's been a long time. You haven't had some of you guys maybe haven't seen trigonometry before. Maybe you struggle with algebra. There's a lot of things. So if you do have questions, please, please, please shoot me emails. We can talk on the phone. We can try to talk in person. We can figure out a way to work through this stuff. All of the lectures from this past fall are already online. You can watch those. We've got a lot of options up there. So do your homework, make sure you're taking notes while you're watching these lectures, while you happen to be going through and listening to the other lectures later on. Make sure we're asking questions, we're studying. When in doubt, yes, try to come by the lab. Play, meaning try to look at the information in different ways, try to apply it to your life, because that's really what this is. It's the body in motion. And then understand that lots of this is going to be frustrating. It's going to take time, it's going to take energy, it's going to be difficult. So one thing that can help you guys when it comes to approaches is going to be the joys of what's known as the Feynman technique. So the basic idea that we're talking about here is you effectively want to go ahead and try to talk through any concept. And it's going to let you know effectively when you have hit a brick wall, when you don't understand any further, because you're not able to explain it to anybody. And then as we keep trying to make it simpler and simpler, still, eventually you're going to have everything effectively in the cleanest way that is obviously going to show that you have mastery of the topic. So make sure that obviously you're trying to go for it. So, I think you guys are going to do well. Make sure that you guys do the work. if you have questions, comments, concerns, please let me know, but, don't give up. Don't just stop and quit trying to do your homeworks. You're going to have a quiz or an exam that you're going to tank it, or some of you will, and it's gonna suck. But when you do that, remember, guys, you're gonna be taking it as a group also. So if as a group you guys are managing to get A's on everything you're doing, let's say like you get a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 on every single group quiz. If you guys are only averaging a 5 or a 6 out of 10, so AKA you're getting F's and D's on every single quiz, but your group's still doing well, you're still getting a C average on every single quiz. You're still passing the class. So that's part of the reason why I have it set up this way. So A, you guys can work together, and B, it's set up in such a way that as long as you put in the work, it's very, very hard to fail. So that being said, let's go ahead, and we're going to go ahead and obviously talk through the different, or essentially lecture on the class. But for now, let's talk about that movement project a little bit more. So obviously you're going to pick an exercise that you guys find to be interesting. So for now, when we say break down a movement, this could be something like pitching in softball, shooting a three-pointer, throwing a cartwheel. It can be a number of different movements. Now, you guys get to pick the movement you want to break down, and then obviously we're going to get you guys into groups to go through that movement. So with that information, is there any particular movement or otherwise that you guys are interested in effectively breaking down? And then from there, we're going to do some voting and try to get you guys in groups of about 5 seems to be kind of the magic number, but I know we don't have everybody here today. So we're going to have some more folks added in as we go. So that being said, go ahead and throw up in the chat or unmute yourself and let me know what exercise movement you guys would be interested in breaking down. Okay, when you say volleyball swing, is that a spike you're talking about? Is that a serve? Is that... Yeah, we could pick some of the Olympic lifting movements. Thank you, Maddie. Just keep spitballing ideas, guys. It's more than fine. And that's okay. That's why we're going to vote to see which groups we're going to be in. So, all right. So Austin, there's the snatch, there's the clean and jerk, and if you're going to go old school, there's the clean and press. So power clean is obviously part of one of the movements. Is there another Olympic lift you'd like? Because you don't want to have to break down all of them. I want you guys to do work, but I don't want to give you guys that much work. All right. Sounds good. Are there any other exercises or movements you guys are interested in having up here? All right, so let's try to use that polling again in the participants. If you want to be in the volleyball spike movement, go ahead and just click on the yes button right now in the participants tab. You can only vote once, guys. Okay. Maddie, are you interested, or you no longer interested in doing that one? Okay, cool. Awesome. So I'm gonna clear that out, guys. Now, how many people would like to do the power clean? And you can save your vote for the clean and jerk, or you can do your vote right now on the power cleans. Obviously, it's your choice. You should do what you're interested in. Okay. Baseball pitch. Go and click yes in the participants, or just say yes in the chat if you aren't able to figure out how to do the polling. Evan, you're not interested in doing the baseball pitch anymore? Okay. So now let's go ahead. Forehand in tennis. Oh, sorry, Evan. Forehand in tennis. Anybody else other than Emily? All right. Toe touch. Okay. Free throw. Okay. Let's go ahead and now football tackle. Folks, you guys are killing me on the democratic process. We've talked about that a long time ago, and now you want to hop on it? Clean and jerk. Who all wants to go for that? All right. You know what? That's gone. We're going clean and jerk instead, and I'm going to put all four of you guys in there. All right. So we're going to drop the toe touch because nobody voted for it. Okay. Okay. So we're still missing some people today. We only had 12 votes, yet we have 14 people currently participating in this lecture. So we're already missing 2 people didn't vote, which is still better than most democratic elections. And in the US, that is. Let's go ahead, and we're not going to assign groups yet, but for those of you guys in each of these movements, because it doesn't save the chat, go ahead and put up the movement you voted for and your email. And then I want you guys to go ahead and make sure that you save the email of the person in that movement that you're trying to do. And then we'll do this again on Thursday and see which movement group people are in. Your email, guys, and the movement you voted for. Thank you, Maddie. Thank you, Gabby. So make sure you guys copy and paste so you guys have got that contact information because we're going to revisit this. I know you got kicked off there, Evan, but when you get a moment, put up in the chat the exercise that you voted for and your email. Awesome. All right, guys. So now you guys have got a way to get a hold of each other. We've gone through the basics here. So what's on the syllabus and the schedule, which is going to be 9:30 to 10:45 Tuesday, Thursdays. Question was, when are their meeting times for this class? So now, because we obviously got you guys to go ahead and put up your information, I want you guys to go ahead and throw up in the chat effectively this information. So name, and specifically for you guys, the name you like to go, wait until you put everything in there, Emily, not just your name, get everything in there. So what year you are, obviously your major, give us then what a hobby is or what your hobbies are, interests, what you like to do on your own free time. If you have a favorite quote, go ahead and throw it up there. If you don't, that's okay. You're all right, Emily. Any type of band or music that you're currently enjoying listening to, current favorite movie or book, obviously that can be a moving target. And then one interesting fact about yourself, but just so we're clear, the interesting fact, we are going to do quality control and it better be interesting. If it's not interesting, we're going to make you throw out something else. So whenever you're ready, guys, start typing that out and then just go ahead and throw it up in the group chat. Once you go ahead and get that all written out so we can kind of get to know all you guys a little bit better. Remember, Josh, wait till you write everything out and then go ahead and click and then go ahead and hit enter to send. What genre, Austin, is Little Baby? Or is that just like you just listen to a baby cry and that's kind of your musical choice, which I'm not going to yuck your yum, but I don't understand it. Wow. Congrats on the first house, Emily. Um, Now, was that your picture was up at Applebee's because you weren't allowed to be in that Applebee's anymore, or did you do something that obviously brought you some acclaim? Nice. And what's your hometown, Abigail? Gabby, what was your dad's world record in, and what lifting sport? Or sorry, I now realize it's lifting common sports. We're good. Nice. Good for you, Josh. So the town doesn't even have a name, it's just Bath County? Cool. Nice. Maddie, you might want to go back to New Zealand, seeing as how they don't have COVID right now. Nice, Evan. Is your pug that overweight, or you just enjoy the name? Lexi, I already know that about you. You got to give me a better fact. Huh. Cool, Gabby. Nice, Zach. Are you interning with athletic training? Nice, Sam. Where at on the Virginia-Kentucky line? Like what towns nearby? Oh dear God, Taylor. That's a lot of children to watch. I like it, Evan. Nice. Axel, what's your favorite Harry Potter then? Anouk, I already know that about you. Come on, give me something more interesting. Nice. There you go, Lexi. Nice. Nice choice there, Axel. I'm probably more in Order of the Phoenix, but I think that's still, I mean, not that you can really pick a bad choice there. All right. Now, I apologize, guys. I haven't kept track to see who all has put this up in the chat by now, but welcome to the class, guys. Hopefully, you're going to have some fun and we're going to learn. Now, we're probably not going to go the full time every morning because we seem to go really fast when we're online like this. But now, obviously, you guys know how to use the chat function, so you can always just put in there, you don't have to even put in like a full, like, ask me a question. Instead, you can just, I don't know, put in like an exclamation point, something else that I'll see the chat scroll and then I'll stop talking. So that way it gives you guys an opportunity to go ahead and ask the questions that you guys want to ask. So Very nice. But yeah, Anouk, I'm still waiting for another interesting fact. In that time, though, let's go and talk about what biomechanics is. It's just a combination of bio, meaning life, and then mechanics, which is going to be the study of actions and forces. So if we're looking at the arm, specifically the ability to do arm elbow flexion, that's being done mostly by your bicep, also by your brachialis and your brachioradialis. Now, the ability, oh, I'm sure you're interested in Anouk, but one day we'll get that from you. It's okay. Oh, nice. Jordan, that's awesome. When you say studying cars, what type of cars are you referring to? And fair choice, I'm not going to lie. If you would have said Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, I would not be able to trust you, ever. I think we can all agree that's the worst film in the Fast and the Furious franchise. So, with biomechanics, we're just looking at the forces your body's producing in order to go ahead and move. Oh, and we've got Dakota. Nice. Nice. Good luck with the puppies, depending on how well, how to say, trained they are. That can be quite a party. Yeah, and if any of you guys like to power lift and you guys want to lift weights sometime, just let me know. I'm always looking for another training partner. So, biomechanics itself has effectively four major sub-branches. We have statics, which is going to be looking at a system that's in a constant form of motion. So obviously not moving at all is constant motion, or looking at something where we're constantly moving in a direction. So if you're talking about cross country runners, which I know we have a number of those in this class, it's obviously looking at that constant motion at your hips, your knees, your ankles, your shoulders. Yeah, just shoot me an email. We'll figure out a time, bud. Then there's dynamics, which is the study of a systems where we are accelerating. Now, acceleration is the change in velocity, and velocity is how fast you're going. So this could be something like drag car races. This could be things like doing vertical jumps, obviously change of direction, because you're gonna have both deacceleration and then reacceleration. We then have kinematics, and this is going to be the study of the appearance. So effectively describing motions, what's going on. So that's breaking down anything even more thoroughly as to what's going on with not just those joints, but the muscles that are going to cause those joints to move. And then we have kinetics, which is going to be the study of forces. And this is going to be what's pushing or pulling on objects. So we can think of the kinetics when you're pushing on the ground. And I don't know about you guys, when you go out and about, since now it's getting to be pretty darn cold and definitely wet, when you hit a patch of ice, you're still applying force in the ground. You just don't have the what's known as the coefficient of friction between your foot and the surface you're on. And then you can find yourself slipping pretty darn easily simply because you can't get that types of traction. Whereas obviously the sport of something like powerlifting, that's all about force production and receiving forces and generating forces to move the object where you're looking to go. So kinematics, when we're talking about things in motion, now we're talking about the size, sequence, and the timing of the movement. So effectively, what's going on to move us in that given direction. So we're seeing this in a lot of aerobic sports. The individual that happens to be the most efficient with their kinematics is going to have an advantage over someone that has the same strength, endurance, etc., all of those other variables. Whoever's more efficient is going to be your better athlete because they don't have to use as much energy to do the same thing. In fact, either Axel or Anouk, are you guys able to unmute yourselves?
Yeah.
Thank you. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yeah, Anouk. That's right.
Anouk. Okay. So I know you guys obviously compete across country. When you guys are going to obviously indoor, outdoor meets or, running cross, do you ever see any cross country runners that have bad running technique?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, you do. How frequently would you say that happens though?
I mean, there are also like really fast people that just have bad running technique, like they lean very far forward or
Mm-hmm.
their arms are going like across their body.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Now, how much more frequently do you see that whenever you see somebody jogging around campus that isn't one of your teammates?
oh yeah, mostly. It's like normal, basically.
No, and that's okay. That's okay. That's because you guys, that is your sport. You guys are athletes in that. And you can say, and you can see they're wasting energy because this energy is going side to side. If your arms are going straight forward and back, I don't want to nail my elbow on my desk. That's why I'm running with like Tom Cruise high elbows, because you want to have all that energy sending you forward, because that's the game. Who can go forward the fastest or who can cover that distance in the shortest period of time is the winner. So thank you, Anouk.
You're welcome.
Now, we then have kinetics. And once again, guys, this is going to be force production. So when you're throwing that baseball, you're swinging the bat, you're doing a power clean, we're talking about producing that force. Now we're going to have external forces. Obviously, that's things outside of our body, and internal forces. So obviously, if we were to go over the rec center and we see somebody doing a back squat, now they're not just squatting that external force, that bar on their back with the weights on each sides. They're also having to squat the weight of their head, the weight of their torso, the weight of their arms, and all of those in order to get them to move where they're trying to effectively inflict their will upon the object. In fact, I know obviously Lexi is on the cheer team here. And so with her role in cheerleading, where she's typically basing movements, she has to not just obviously lift her arm overhead, but then she has to have an entire girl in her hand in that arm that's overhead, which obviously requires a lot more force production. Now, we then have some different umbrella areas. We have kinesiology, which is the study of human movement. Now, this isn't getting it hard into the numbers so much as we're getting into with biomechanics, obviously this class, but it's going to be very important in wherever, anytime we're looking at anybody performing any activity. Bad technique, may it be in cross country, may it be in football, basketball, baseball, even walking, is going to cause uneven wear on our joints, which is going to risk injuries, both not just in the short term, but the long term. So we're actively trying with pretty much anything we're doing to have the best technique possible. And I know obviously you don't see a lot of people when you're walking around these days. And in theory, we're social distancing a lot. I say in theory because we know not everybody's doing a great job there. But watch your quote unquote homework this week is I want you to watch people's feet when they're walking. How many people's their feet turn in where they're doing that pigeon toed? And then how many people their feet turn out and they're duck walking while they're moving around campus or wherever you see them? How many people have the feet going in a straight line? And you'll be surprised to see, arguably some people are literally, they're just not good at walking. They're not good at hiking around because they don't practice it. And it all tends to be a skill. Now, the more frequently you practice things, the better your skill tends to be, but also requires deliberate practice where you're constantly focusing on making things better. Because I'm sure all of you guys have played a sport before where you had a teammate that practiced a lot, but for lack of a better term, they kind of practiced wrong. They weren't constantly trying to improve their technique. They were just doing more sloppy reps, and then they never really got much better. So now, obviously, this plays into sports medicine because it turns out we want athletes to be as healthy as they can be, and not just athletes. Well, I joke that we're all playing this combat/contact sport called life. And, when you're walking around campus, hopefully nothing bad happens to you, but you could slip. And if you don't have the athleticism to catch yourself, to move quickly enough, or to be able to roll, if you're just falling on ice and you're completely, you're screwed for lack of a better term, like you're going to get injured. And then at the same time, we're applying these scientific concepts behind it to realize why a number of things are important. So just as a general question to the class, what part of the body and let's just split it between upper and lower body strength is the most important for people to go through their daily lives. And you guys can throw that up in the chat. As do you think it's upper body strength or lower body strength? That's important for effectively the vast majority of their quality of life. Nice. I was really hoping we had like a couple like rec bros in here, like upper body, because no girl ever asks you how much you can squat or deadlift. But absolutely, guys, your lower body strength, and that's how you get around, you know, from walking around your house, apartment, etc., climbing stairs. Now, obviously, you know, people can live very fulfilling lives and while being confined to a wheelchair. Like that's, you know, something that obviously, unfortunately happens to some people, but they're able to still live a great life. But at the same time, if you're talking about your best return on investment for, especially for working with older folks, it's probably making their lower body stronger. So if they slip, they can catch themselves by lifting that leg up and putting it in position fast enough. And we'll talk about more later on in this class when we get into osteoporosis and osteopenia, where literally when people do break their hip, it's more the femur, the head and neck of the femur that they're breaking, but it's typically because it's they had to move way too rapidly. And they literally broke their own bones by contracting their muscles harder than the body could handle. So, well, turns out we are going to go ahead and look at a lot of different problems when it comes to biomechanics. You know, a very important and interesting one is literally, hopefully, you know, as our species is able to possibly colonize the moon and then eventually Mars and other planets, is during space flight when there's effectively little to no gravitational forces. In fact, one of my old advisors actually did research with both astronauts and cosmonauts. Cosmonauts is the term for a Russian astronaut, and literally how much bone and muscle mass that those folks are going to lose while they're in outer space because their bodies aren't being subjected to all the forces of gravity that obviously all of us are having to deal with on a daily basis. In fact, it was, yeah. If you guys want to know more about that, those stories, it's really interesting. I don't necessarily want to record them here, but they're fascinating when you're looking at the difference in physical activity between the cosmonauts and the astronauts. Sorry. We then have, well, how can we utilize equipment in order to make ourselves a little bit safer while we're lifting? And so this could be things like, you know, wearing lifting belts. Obviously, you see folks wearing knee sleeves, elbow sleeves to also help. And, you know, always trying to use the best possible technique in order to decrease injury risk. Pictured here is David Riegert. He is probably, oh no, he isn't probably, he is pretty much my favorite Olympic lifter of all time. The dude was just a freaking animal. I could wax and wane poetic about him. Go ahead and look up videos of him. The dude was just he was an incredible Olympic lifter, but B, he was a freaking lion and not afraid to try darn near any single weight. But then we can also look at simpler things like how do we effectively learn how to walk? You know, obviously we go from progressing of just being able to, you know, roll over to being able to crawl to eventually being able to walk on our own. Now, what's really fascinating is if you're looking at the size of your head relative to the rest of your body, whenever you're a toddler, if let's say we put a football helmet on your head and we had like a little, I guess it'd be, yeah, pin that we could, or yeah, a sleeve that we could put plates on, how much weight would we actually probably have to put on that football helmet so that effectively you would be walking around with the same effective like amount of weight through your head as compared to the rest of your body? Do you guys, anybody want to take a wild guess over how much weight that's going to be? Go for it, Sam. You guys can throw it up in the chat. Whatever number do you think it would be? How much weight would we have to put on that football helmet so it would be the equivalent of what it was like to be a baby? Heavier than that. Heavier than 5 pounds, but I appreciate you throwing a guess out there. Heavier than 15 pounds. Not as heavy as 80, a little bit more than 30, Dakota. Getting close, Austin, just a little bit higher. Oh, man. A little bit less, Lexi. Austin, great job. Yeah, 45 pounds. If you want to know what it's like to be a toddler and why you see them falling over whenever their head pitches in front of them, strap a 45-pound weight plate to your head and try to walk around. So it's no wonder that, infants, toddlers, their squatting technique looks pretty much perfect, because if they were to let that head drop or anything else, they'd be completely screwed over because so much of their body mass is in their head. Yeah. Infants, toddlers, and small children can be both really entertaining and complete and total monsters. It depends on how much time you have to spend watching them. Now, unfortunately, during this class, we don't have the ability of having you guys, chat in smaller groups with one another, since obviously we don't have the ability for you guys to go ahead and talk together. Now, biomechanics is very important when it comes to things like gait research, as well as asking a lot of different questions when it comes to different sports. So, for example, does stretching actually help increase performance before we're going to do an athletic endeavor? And it turns out it doesn't really help performance. It actually might hinder it, but the way it hinders it is because you'd have to be doing way too much of it before an exercise. Dynamic warm-ups actually can help potentiate muscles. And then looking at things like stress on the elbows whenever we happen to be doing different types of throwing movements or other exercises. And then at the same time, when we're looking at, we talked about it briefly earlier, running technique, and there's a big difference between jogging technique, running technique, and sprinting technique. You're looking at very different velocities. And then we also have to keep in mind the different anatomical, meaning we're going to talk about anthropometrics. So how long are the legs of the athlete? How long are the shins? How big are the feet? All of those are going to play a little bit into the things that we're going to be looking for with optimal technique. So also it's going to be about trying to find equipment to make sports safer. So we can talk about helmets in a variety of different sports, along with other protective equipment so we can have appropriate mobility. That's why you see a lot of football players, even linemen specifically, even though they've never hurt themselves, they're typically playing the entire game in double knee braces, simply because when a 300-pound land mammal falls on your knee tends to explode. It's just physics, and she's a harsh mistress sometimes. So we're using the study of biomechanics to help us be able to see, analyze, and correct errors. And this is going to allow us to look at, okay, how effective are these new innovations and equipment or approaches to movements? Are we going to be utilizing appropriate training methods in order to help increase someone's performance and not injure them? And then, okay, how can we see what should be our benchmarks for abilities and different skills? Any of you guys been around? I know, oh gosh, I know one of you guys is babysitting 7 children right now. When you watch like a 3 to 5-year-old run, any of you guys ever seen a 3 to 5-year-old run with good technique? Or they tend to be kind of like all over the place? Yeah. Now, it's not like, it'd be fun to run like I have no control of my limbs. Instead, it's just they haven't practiced it. It's a skill they haven't done a whole lot, and it requires more and more physical maturity. And what sports or activities can you guys think of where different techniques or different skills effectively coaches try to avoid having athletes do until they're mature enough to try it? And I'm referring to physical maturity. So, how well developed you are before they introduce these movements. Good. What movement in basketball do you like to wait a while before you try to introduce it to athletes because of physical maturity? Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes just getting a kindergartner to throw a basketball high enough to get into the rim is a little prohibitive, much less trying to get them to shoot a three-pointer until they at least show they can hit, a free throw. They can go ahead and maybe do a basic layup. You're not going to try to teach a 7-year-old how to dunk. You're maybe we should just work on dribbling the ball, passing the ball. Maybe things like throwing a curveball in the sport of baseball. Wait until they're old enough, their arms developed, they've got enough practice throwing and whatnot before you're going to try to introduce these movements. Now, we have what's known as anthropometric factors, and these are going to be the size, shape, and the weight of different body segments. This is really important when it comes to breaking down movements. Now, this is going to be how tall are you? How long are your arms? How big are your hands? How big are your feet? How heavy are your arms? How heavy are your legs? It has nothing to do with gender. It's just everything about the basic measurements. Now, what sport can you guys think of where you have an advantage if you have really short arms? Yeah, yeah, Josh, that's a great point. Shorter arms in Olympic lifting, you literally have an advantage of not having to effectively move the bar as far. If you wanted to do something like arm wrestling or you wanted to be a bench presser, you're going to have advantages there because you don't have to, you can produce more torque because you've got a thin or a shorter lever arm. Now, what type of sports would having really long arms be an advantage? Yes. Basketball, swimming, boxing, exactly, guys. Yeah, discus. Great job. Where having certain types of anthropometrics is going to give you an advantage. So, let's point out the realities of the cross-country team. Well, since we got one of the guys and one of the gals here, are any of the guys or gals that are high-level cross-country runners, are any of them broad people? Do you see people that have really broad shoulders, much less really broad hips in a high level in your sports? Does that really ever show up? No. It's naturally going to be very narrow people because it gives you an advantage. You have a narrower body, which takes less energy to propel forward. You have less drag and allows you to go on that straight line for much further. It's the same reason why you don't see cross-country bodies playing as linemen in football. They're not broad enough, much less, all the extra weight, both muscle and fat, to protect themselves and allow them to play at a higher level. So that's why we care about anthropometrics. What we're going to find is most of us are relatively normal. We don't have anything that's too exceptional, meaning we're super tall, super short, super long arms, super short arms, etc. And your highest level athletes tend to be a bit of freaks in that they've got that, the gentleman with the unibrow center for the Lakers. What's his name? Thank you. Anthony Davis, I think he's 6'11", right? Which is somewhat considered to be almost short for centers, but I believe his wingspan is something like 7'4" or 7'5". Like he's already crazy tall, but then he has even crazier long arms compared to how tall he is, which gives him a greater advantage for doing things like rebounding and, you know, playing the sport of basketball in general, because he has such a bigger wingspan to go after that ball. So the final concept that we're going to leave on today, guys, is going to be the difference between a qualitative and a quantitative value. Now, most of your life, guys, you've been working with qualitative variables, which is effectively, what is the quality? Is someone strong, fast, agile, mobile? But we're going to be doing a lot of things that are quantitative. So when we say they're fast, they were running at this velocity. When we say they're tall, we're going to give you the exact height. When we say they weigh this much, we're going to give you obviously that weight. And we're going to do the same thing when it comes to force, with acceleration, and a number of other metrics. So quantitative is just giving a true numerical value that can obviously be written down. So think about it. If you say you found someone attractive, that's a qualitative variable. Now, how do you really quantify someone's attractiveness? That's where it gets real muddy real fast, because what you find attractive is not what the next person finds attractive. And that's where things can get kind of wonky real fast, because I'm sure you've had coaches that looked at certain qualities and overvalued them. Like, oh, this person is really good at this, or they constantly bring this or this to the game. It's like, well, are they doing a great job, or are we just dealing with their own confirmation biases? Instead, we want to be able to actually quantify and be like, yes, this person is the best player in the team because they're doing this, this, and this. And we can actually quantify it because they have the highest free throw percentage, highest steals per game, and highest rebounds, or something along those lines. So we're going to go ahead and stop early today, because obviously we're all getting back into academic shape. If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, you guys know how to get a hold of me. Whenever you guys are ready, you guys go ahead and have a nice one. I will upload this to YouTube like all of our other lectures will be. And if you don't mind, Anna, I'll just go ahead and talk with you real fast to kind of catch up on what you missed. And then if any of you guys have any other questions, you can go ahead and ask me. But as of now, thank you guys for a good first day. Stay safe out there. We're going to be figuring out those groups on Thursday. If for some reason you know you're not going to be able to make it, please let me know, and we will go ahead and make sure that you get in the groups that you guys wanted to, because you guys already have each other's emails. Stay safe out there, guys. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.